All right, so we're going to look at reflections now. So reflections are exactly what they sound like. It's a reflection over the x-axis or the y-axis. Okay, those are your two options. You can reflect over the x-axis, you can reflect over the y-axis. Now, you're reflecting over, in this case, the y-axis. Now, when you hold your hand up to a mirror, it is exactly as far away from the mirror on the other side as it is on the front side. So, for instance, E, right here, E will not move. Point E will not move. E and E prime will be the same point because it's right on the line. C is one space off the line, so C prime is going to be one space the other direction off the line. W is one space off the line, so it's one space off the line. And M is 3, so M will be 3. So your new shape would look just like this. Now, when we're dealing with reflections, okay, your rule, everything still stays x and y, but one of them becomes the opposite of whatever it was to start with. Okay, if your y-axis is where your reflection was, then your x changes to the opposite point. Now, take C for instance. C was at 1, -1. So C prime would be at -1 because it's the opposite of that 1, -1. And looky there, we got -1, -1. Okay. M was at 3, -3. So M prime is -3, -3. So your rule is whichever axis you flip over, the opposite point becomes the opposite. So the opposite changes to the opposite. You flipped over the y, the x coordinate changes to the opposite. The reason I keep saying the opposite instead of negative is because if this, say you have a mysterious point G that is -3, 1, if you reflect it to find G prime, you would get 3, 1. Because if you make it the opposite, we know two negatives make a positive. Okay, number two. Number two, reflection across the x-axis. Reflection across the x-axis. So this is our x-axis. Obviously, again, W is going to stay the same. I is right there. X, notice all these points stay right on that line, just that number of spaces over. X is 5 spots down, so it's going to be 5 spots up. And those are our new points. So that would be our new shape. Okay, go ahead and think what you think the new rule for this one would be. Remember, the opposite changes to the opposite. So the x stays the same. The y is going to change to the opposite of whatever it was to start with. Okay. Number three, a reflection across the y-axis. So here's our y-axis. And this is where it is important that you remember you've got to transform or change each point individually. Now this shape is splitting that y-axis. The z is 1 this direction, so z prime becomes 1 this direction. S is 3 there, so it's going to be 3 here. B is 3 there, so it's going to be 3 here. So your new shape looks just like this. You'll notice it is, in fact, a reflection of that one, even though it overlaps. It still is the exact same shape, just the opposite direction. And our rule is still the same. The opposite point, which is x in this case, changes to the opposite of whatever it was. Okay, take B down here for instance. B was -3, -3. B prime, the opposite of -3 is 3, so on. And here we are at 3, -3. Okay, 4, a reflection across the x-axis. Okay, you should be getting it by now. This will be R, this will be T, or I'm sorry, I, and this will be T. And there you go. That is the x-axis, reflection over the x-axis. X, y, 2, x, -y. Perfect. And the last example down here, reflection across the y-axis. xy to -xy. So a reflection across the y-axis would be boom, boom, and boom. So it will look just like that. And we're done. That is the last example. So now you can go ahead and get to work on those problems from the workbook. Okay, that I shared with you. There are 4 of them again today. Okay, same concept as yesterday. Tells you where your reflection is going to be, what type of reflection it's going to be. So there you go. That is that. Let me know if you have any questions or need any help. You guys have a great rest of your day.